Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshulmidham Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. This is a rather unique position up here because it's humbling to see a sea of attentive ears, faces that are actually wanting to hear. And so, dandavats to y'all. Before I joined the movement, I was a film editor for film productions for 4 or 5 years. Then I joined the movement, and at that time, Yadabara had made, I think, the Hare Krishna People film. So I thought, well, here's a great way that I can dovetail my propensities as a film editor. And I called Yadabara. I forgot where I was, or where I was in Denver, but I'm not sure where he was. And I said, hey, I'm an editor. Do you need some help? And he said, no. Vishaka and I, we've got it covered. So I was a little disappointed because I'd like to dovetail my propensity in Krishna service that way. But actually I have to thank him for saying no, because afterwards I then went on Harinama, distributed books, taught in high schools, taught in colleges, and the spiritual bliss that I'm sure everyone can acknowledge if you also engage in Sankirtan is much higher than the bliss I had by editing at that point, any material movie or film. So, thank you for turning me down. After some time, I joined partners with Nisringananda Prabhu, and we started ISKCON Television, ITV. And we produced puppet shows, we produced the Ramayana, documentaries on vegetarianism, reincarnation, etc. But in time at one point we had, I also want to thank Srila Prabhu, because he came to our studios one day, and just out of the blue, we said, please sit down. We set him in a director's chair, put a camera in front of him, put a microphone on him, and he started telling Prabhupada stories. And I said, wow, these are interesting. I like to hear these. So from hearing his stories, I was inspired to again dovetail my propensity in Prabhupada service, which I thank you very much, by going around the world and collecting interviews of Prabhupada disciples over 30 years, and I've collected about over 5,000 stories. I think the greatest joy that I get in response to the memories, because they're entertaining, they're educational, they're inspiring to hear about Prabhupada from those who were personally with him, is that I've had several. I live in Los Angeles. I've had several devotees come up to me and said, you know, I joined this movement because I watched all of your memories online. And that's a very gratifying feeling to know that Prabhupada is still there, living in his sound and his pastimes. And it's real. So I'm just going to tell one story from my association with Prabhupada, and a few from short ones, because I know it's getting late. From other devotees as part of the series. I have 76 videos now, hour and a half, 2 hours long. So, and also we have books, if you don't have a DVD player, that are the transcriptions from these anecdotes, from these stories. So the importance or the relevance of these stories is such that a lot of the instructions that Prabhupada gave on morning walks or in darshans are not necessarily in the Gita or the Bhagavatam. These are lessons that he's taught us how to be. He's the Acharya, so he's also teaching us how to live on a day-to-day basis. Various basic things that we had no idea how to drink, how to eat properly, which hand we eat with, so many even basic things. So, and they're also inspiring. But one time on a morning walk in Denver, the topic of the discussion for the whole walk was about prasadam. And Prabhupada said, prasadam is so beneficial that if you feed one bit of prasadam to any animal or insect, they immediately in their next life will jump over all the other species and take human birth. So I was standing right next to him, so I've heard that and remember that for the last 40, 50 years, however long that is. But the other aspect of these memories is that we can see that Prabhupada is a person, and he has qualities. He's like a diamond, he has many facets. It's not only the guru sitting on the Vyasasana giving class, but he has characteristics that make us attached and love him because of these qualities. And one of these qualities that I've discovered from interviewing these devotees is that he has tremendous wit and humor. For example, Guru Das said, one time a lady came up to Prabhupada and said, "Oh, Prabhupada, you look so nice today." And Prabhupada immediately shot back, "Just today?" Shubhuvanath Prabhu, who has sadly left us, great devotee. He was driving in the car with Prabhupada in London, and he was trying to impress Prabhupada. He said, "Prabhupada, one of the Queen's guards, you know, the one with the big furry hats, one of the Queen's guards has joined our movement." And Prabhupada shot back, "Oh, so what about the Queen?" One time Hamsadutta was in New York, very early days in New York, and their Sunday feasts, they would always make gulab jamuns. And as it was, they made too many, so that on Monday they would have extra gulab jamuns. And they would take the gulab jamuns and the syrup or the juice from the gulab jamuns and put it in the kind of bland oatmeal or whatever they had for breakfast. And Kirtanananda, who was pretty much the leader of the temple at that time, was very austere, and he said every devotee can only have 2 gulab jamuns on Monday. And there was a controversy. Hamsadutta and the rest of the devotees were arguing, "No, we like this. This is wonderful. We like this gulab jamuns." And they were going back and forth, arguing. And even had an Ishtagoshi about this. They couldn't resolve it. So they went to Prabhupada. This is one of the benefits of having a pure devotee on the planet. You can confront the pure devotee with this dilemma. So they told him the situation, and Prabhupada thought for a moment. He said, "Yes. All the devotees can have as many gulab jamuns as they want. But Kirtanananda can only have 2. With this humor and wit, we can love Prabhupada more by realizing that he's a person with great intelligence. Not only does he know all the Vedas, but he's tremendous wit and humor. Another story about this quality of Prabhupada was Kaladri, who was Prabhupada's servant, I think here in India, and I'm not sure whether it was Mayapur. It might have been Mayapur. And the custom was that Prabhupada wanted every guest who was in the room to receive prasadam, either there or on their way out, without fail. So Kaladri went and got this jar of, again, gulab jamuns, and they were crawling with ants. So Kaladri thought, "Oh my gosh, how can I serve this out? There are ants all over these gulab jamans. So he asked Prabhupada, Prabhupada, I'm not sure I can serve out these gulab jamans to everybody because the ants are all over the gulab jamans and they're eating the gulab jamans. Prabhupada said, that's all right, they don't eat very much. Just a couple more. Doshan Krishna tells a story that in Los Angeles, back in the day, that was in the 60s, it was the hippie days, and on a Sunday feast, there was one fellow who came in dressed in long hair as a hippie, and he had a long robe on and with stars and moons and suns on it and glitter, and they asked for questions, and this fellow said, what about Buddha? And Prabhupada said, what about Buddha? And then this fellow said, well, can you see God? And Prabhupada said, no, you are in the way. And he sat down. He accepted that answer, and he stayed around, and he sat down with a smile. So Prabhupada knew how to address everybody according to the time and circumstance. So he was in the mode of goodness, actually, because he accepted Prabhupada's response. You are in the way. Achyutananda tells about a reporter who was a little more antagonistic and asking Prabhupada, so what do? You walk on water? You turn water into wine? What's so special about you? Challenging Prabhupada. Prabhupada immediately shot back. There can be a woman here naked. You will be attracted. I will not. And finally, I'll tell one story. It's not really a humorous one, but it's a learning lesson. There are many lessons to be learned from being with Prabhupada. And this is told by, he's told me not to say his name because of his business association, but he's allowed me to include his story in the memories books. And this took place in Hawaii. And this gentleman, this devotee, he's a devotee, professional. He gave $2,200, I think was the amount to become a life member. So he gave it on a Sunday, and with becoming a life member, you're able to get all of Prabhupada's books. You can get a card where you can go to various iskcon temples and stay at each temple for 3 days. I don't know if this is still going on, but that's what was going on at this time. And so he gave the money to the temple president, and the next day when he came to collect his books and the card, that temple president in Hawaii took his money and blooped with it. He bought an airplane ticket and flew the coop, essentially. And this devotee, this wannabe life member, was very upset. And Prabhupada was actually in Hawaii at that time. And he went to Prabhupada to complain. Srila Prabhupada, I gave $2,200 to this temple president, and he's taken all my money, and he's left with it. He's absconded with my money, and I don't have anything to show for it. And he just went on and on and on. Finally, he stopped, and Prabhupada said, do not be upset with the instrument of your karma. So we can take that to heart for ourselves in many situations we find ourselves in. Whether a policeman pulls you over, and you might swear at that policeman, no, he's just the instrument of our karma. Or if a devotee steps on our toe accidentally, or whatever the situation where we might rile up with anger or other negative emotions, we should realize that that person or thing is simply the instrument of our karma. So, Srila Prabhupada, thank you for allowing me to engage in your service. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
RG Media YouTube channel. Like, share, subscribe.